Breaking news: just 5 minutes ago, Congress passed a historic bill that will put $4,400 directly into the pockets of millions of Americans. Yes, you heard that correctly. A massive $4,400 stimulus refund check has been confirmed for Social Security and SSDI recipients nationwide, and the first payments are literally hitting bank accounts as we speak. Are you one of the millions of Americans who qualify for this unexpected financial windfall? Do you know exactly when your payment will arrive? And, most importantly, what critical steps do you need to take right now to ensure you don't miss out on this game-changing opportunity? If you're concerned about your financial future, or simply want to make sure you receive every dollar you're entitled to, smash that subscribe button right now and hit the notification bell so you never miss crucial updates that could put thousands of extra dollars in your pocket this year. This development represents a stunning turn of events for the millions of Americans who rely on Social Security retirement benefits, SSDI, and SSI to make ends meet. The bill's passage comes after weeks of intense negotiations and mounting pressure from advocacy groups representing elderly and disabled Americans, who have been disproportionately affected by recent economic challenges. Unlike previous stimulus measures that offered more modest payments, this substantial $4,400 amount reflects lawmakers' growing recognition that vulnerable populations on fixed incomes require more significant support to weather the current economic storm. The timing of this stimulus couldn't be more critical. With inflation driving up the cost of essentials like groceries, medications, and utilities, many Social Security and disability recipients have been making impossible choices between basic necessities. The average monthly Social Security retirement benefit hovers around $1,800, which leaves precious little room for absorbing the dramatic price increases we've seen across virtually every spending category. This one-time payment of $4,400 effectively provides recipients with the equivalent of nearly 2.5 additional months of benefits, a substantial buffer that could help millions of households regain their financial footing. What makes this stimulus particularly noteworthy is its direct targeting of Social Security and disability recipients. Previous economic impact payments were distributed more broadly across the population, but legislators have recognized that Americans on fixed incomes face unique challenges in the current economic environment, with limited ability to increase their income through additional work. These individuals are especially vulnerable to rising prices. The focused nature of this stimulus ensures that relief reaches those who need it most urgently, rather than dispersing limited resources across the entire population. You might be wondering exactly who qualifies for this substantial payment. The legislation encompasses a remarkably broad range of beneficiaries. All Social Security retirement recipients regardless of benefit amount are included. SSDI recipients qualify automatically, as do SSI recipients, even those who receive relatively modest monthly benefits. The stimulus is also extended to railroad retirement beneficiaries, VA pension recipients, and certain other federal benefit programs. Essentially, if you currently receive any form of federal retirement or disability benefit, you're almost certainly included in this relief package. The distribution mechanism for these payments has been designed for maximum efficiency, leveraging existing payment systems rather than creating new bureaucratic processes. For the vast majority of recipients, the funds will be delivered through the same channel you currently receive your monthly benefits. If your Social Security or disability payment arrives via direct deposit, your stimulus will appear in that same account. Some recipients are already reporting seeing pending deposits showing up in their online banking platforms. If you typically receive paper checks for your benefits, your stimulus will arrive in check form as well, though these physical payments will naturally take slightly longer to reach recipients. What has many financial experts particularly surprised about this legislation is the speed with which funds are being dispersed. Unlike previous stimulus programs that took weeks or even months to fully implement, the current distribution is happening with unprecedented rapidity. The bill's language included emergency implementation provisions that prioritize getting money into recipients' hands without delay. This reflects a growing understanding among policymakers that, when economic assistance is needed, timing is often just as important as the amount. For many households teetering on the financial edge, this quick distribution could mean the difference between making rent this month or facing potential eviction. The question many recipients are asking is whether this payment will affect their existing benefits or create tax complications down the road. On this front, the news is overwhelmingly positive. The legislation explicitly classifies these payments as disaster relief rather than regular income, meaning they won't count against income limits for programs like Medicaid, SNAP, food stamps, or housing assistance for SSI recipients, who must typically adhere to strict asset limitations. The bill includes special provisions ensuring that these funds won't jeopardize their ongoing eligibility. And, come tax time, recipients will find that these payments are completely tax-exempt at both the federal and state levels. While the primary focus of this stimulus is providing immediate financial relief, it's worth noting that the economic impact extends far beyond the individual recipients. When millions of Americans suddenly have an additional $4,400 to spend, the ripple effects throughout the economy can be substantial. Local businesses, particularly in communities with high concentrations of retirees and disability recipients, are likely to see increased consumer spending in the coming weeks. This multiplier effect was one of the key arguments that helped secure bipartisan support for the measure, as legislators from across the political spectrum recognized the potential for broader economic benefits beyond the immediate relief for beneficiaries. If you're wondering about the timing of your specific payment, the distribution follows a familiar pattern for those accustomed to receiving Social Security benefits. The rollout follows the established schedule based on recipients' birth dates, with those born early in the month receiving payments first, followed by mid-month and late-month birthdays. SSDI recipients whose benefits are based on their own work records follow this same schedule. However, for SSI recipients and those who receive SSDI based on another person's work record, payments are being distributed on a slightly different timeline, with many seeing deposits as early as today, regardless of birth date. For recipients who have changed banks or addresses recently, there might be some additional steps required to ensure prompt receipt of their stimulus payment. If you've updated your information with the Social Security Administration within the past 3 months, your payment should still reach you through your new preferred method without any issues. However, if you've made a change very recently and haven't yet notified the SSA, now would be the time to contact them directly to provide updated information. While the agency will eventually redirect returned funds, taking proactive steps can prevent potentially lengthy delays in receiving your payment. The passage of this stimulus bill represents a rare moment of political consensus in Washington. In our current climate of partisan division, securing broad support for major spending initiatives has become increasingly challenging. Yet, the economic realities facing Social Security and disability recipients proved compelling enough to bridge ideological divides. Representatives from both major parties recognized that their constituents, particularly elderly and disabled voters, were facing unprecedented financial challenges that demanded immediate action. This unusual display of bipartisanship underscores just how serious the situation had become for millions of Americans living on fixed incomes. Looking at the broader economic context helps explain why this stimulus became necessary. Since early 2022, inflation has significantly eroded the purchasing power of Americans on fixed incomes. Even with the substantial COLA increases in recent years, many beneficiaries found themselves falling further behind as prices for essentials continue to climb faster than their benefit adjustments. Basic items like eggs, which saw price increases of nearly 60% at one point, became budget-straining purchases rather than affordable staples. Utility bills in many regions doubled, and housing costs surged to unprecedented levels. Perhaps most critically, healthcare expenses, which consume a disproportionate share of many retirees and disabled individuals' budgets, continued their relentless upward trajectory. Against this challenging backdrop, the traditional mechanisms for protecting beneficiaries' purchasing power simply weren't sufficient. The standard COLA calculation methodology has long been criticized for underrepresenting the actual expenses most heavily affecting seniors and disabled Americans. Medical costs, housing, and certain food categories, all of which figure prominently in these populations' budgets, often rise faster than the general inflation rate captured by the Consumer Price Index. This one-time stimulus payment represents an acknowledgement of that disconnect and provides immediate relief while longer-term solutions are considered. So, what should recipients do with this substantial infusion of cash? Financial advisors are suggesting several approaches, depending on individual circumstances. For those with pressing medical needs that have been deferred due to cost concerns, this could be an opportunity to address those issues without further delay. Others might consider addressing accumulated debt that has been incurred simply to cover basic expenses during recent inflationary periods. And, for those who've been forced to deplete emergency savings to make ends meet, rebuilding that financial cushion might be the most prudent course of action. Everyone's situation is different, but thinking strategically about this unexpected resource can help maximize its long-term benefit. It's also worth noting that this stimulus payment comes against the backdrop of ongoing discussions about the future of Social Security and disability programs. With trust funds solvency concerns looming in the coming decade, many advocacy groups view this immediate relief as just the first step in a broader conversation about strengthening the long-term viability of these crucial safety net programs. The willingness to provide substantial emergency assistance now could signal growing recognition among policymakers that more fundamental reforms may be necessary to ensure these programs continue to provide adequate support for vulnerable Americans in the decades ahead. As we wrap up today's breaking news about this extraordinary stimulus payment for Social Security and disability recipients, I want to emphasize how crucial it is to stay informed about developments affecting your benefits. The financial landscape for retirees and disabled Americans continues to evolve rapidly, with policy changes potentially having major impacts on your monthly budget and overall financial security. That's exactly why subscribing to this channel is so important. We continuously monitor and report on the latest benefit news so you never miss out on funds you're entitled to receive. Have you received your payment yet? Are you planning how to use these funds to address your most pressing financial needs? Drop a comment below sharing your experience or plans. Your perspective helps build our community of informed beneficiaries, supporting one another through challenging economic times. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and notification bell so you're always first to know about developments that could impact your financial well-being. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.